Algebra, Unit 1, Lesson 3, Properties of Numbers. You will be able to recognize the properties of equality and identity. And you will also be able to recognize the commutative and associative properties. So here we have a list of our equality properties, or properties of equality. We have our reflexive property, which states that any quantity is equal to itself. For example, A is equal to A. So the same thing, so a number equal to itself is the reflexive property, a number or variable or expression. Symmetric. If one quantity equals a second quantity, then the second quantity equals the first. So in other words, if A equals B, then B equals A. Transitive. If one quantity equals a second quantity, and the second quantity equals a third quantity, then the first quantity equals the third quantity. So in other words, if A equals B, and we also know that B equals C, then by the transitive property, A must also equal C. Substitution. A quantity may be substituted for its equal in any expression. If A equals B, then A may be replaced by B in any expression. And the substitution property also holds true if you had, for example, 5 minus 3, and you know that 5 minus 3 is 2, so you could substitute 2 for that expression 5 minus 3. Some other properties here. The additive identity. For any number A, the sum of A and 0 is A. So when you add 0 to anything, if you add 0 to a number, you get that number in return. That's an additive identity. Additive inverse is a number and its opposite are additive inverses of each other. So when you add a number and its opposite and you get 0, which is an additive inverse. Multiplicative identity. For any number A, the product of A and 1 is A. So multiply a number by 1 and you get that same number back. That's a multiplicative identity. The multiplicative property of 0, or 0 property, it means that for any number A, the product of A and 0 is 0. Basically, when you multiply a number by 0, you get 0 in return. That's the 0 property. Multiplicative inverse states that for every number A over B, where A and B can't equal 0, there's exactly one number, B over A, its reciprocal, such that their product is 1. So if you take A over B and multiply it by its reciprocal, you get 1. That's a multiplicative inverse. Commutative, the order in which you add or multiply numbers does not change their sum or product. So this first one is the commutative property of addition, and then we have the commutative property of multiplication. The associative property, in words, is the way you group 3 or more numbers when adding or multiplying does not change their sum or product. So here's our associative property of addition and our associative property of multiplication. So what we did here is we added A plus B plus C on both sides. But what we did instead is changed where the parentheses were. Changing where the parentheses are in an example like this does not change the result. That is the associative property. So let's see if we can identify some of these properties. Here we're taking 7 plus negative 7, which equals 0. Well, those are inverses, 7 and negative 7, and we are adding, so this is an additive inverse. For letter B, we have 8n equals 8n. It's the same thing, so this is the reflexive property. Letter C, it looks like we have 4 plus 6 plus 5 on both sides. And we change the parentheses to be from 4 plus 6 to 6 plus 5. So this is the associative property. And it is addition, so it's the associative property of addition. Letter D. 3x plus 4 equals 4 plus 3x. The order is changing, which means it's commutative property. And it is addition, so it's the commutative property of addition. Letter E, if we take a look here, it looks again like our parentheses are changing, only this time it's multiplication. So it's the associative property of multiplication. Letter F, negative 2 times 3 equals 3 times negative 2. The order is changing, so this is the commutative property of multiplication. G, we are taking a number and multiplying it by its reciprocal, which means this is the multiplicative inverse. Letter H, if n equals 7, then 7 equals n. That is the symmetric property. If x equals y and y equals 5, then x equals 5. That's the transitive property. Letter J, m plus 0 equals m. You're adding and you get the same thing back, so this is the additive identity. Letter K, 100 times 0 equals 0. This is the 0 property or multiplicative property of 0. Because your result is 0. When you multiply any number by 0 and get 0, that's the 0 property. Letter L, 5 times 1 is 5. This is an identity property because you get the same thing back in return. And it is multiplication. So it's the multiplicative identity. Evaluate each expression. Name the property used in each step. So we're going to use our order of operations and evaluate the expression. However, we are going to name the properties as we go. So remember, our order of operations is PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S. We do our parentheses, then exponents, multiplication and division from left to right, and then addition and subtraction from left to right. So let's focus in on those parentheses. In the parentheses, I have to take care of 9 divided by 3 first. So let's rewrite everything else here. 24 times 1 minus 8 plus 5. And instead of 9 divided by 3, I'm going to write what that's the same as. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And bring down the minus 3. The property that we used here was substitution. We substituted 9 divided by 3 with 3. Okay, we still have parentheses, so we need to take care of those parentheses first. So we're going to take care of the 3 minus 3, which is 0. So 24 times 1 minus 8 plus 5 times 0. Now when we took two numbers and we get 0 out of it, that is an additive identity. It's okay that it's not an addition sign because remember, 3 minus 3 is really the same as 3 plus negative 3, which means you have your additive inverses. So this is the additive inverse. Okay, next thing we need to take care of is multiplication. We have no exponents, so we're on to multiplication and division from left to right. So let's take care of this 24 times 1. 24 times 1 is 24. And bring down everything else. Well, 24 times 1 is the multiplicative identity. We still have some multiplication. We have 5 times 0, which is 5. So 24 minus 8, I'm sorry, it's not 5, it's 0. 5 times 0 is 0. So we are multiplying by 0, which means this is the 0 property. We have no more multiplication or division, but we do have addition and subtraction. We'll go from left to right. 24 minus 8 is 16. Bring down the plus 0. Here again, we've used substitution. And then last but not least, we have 16 plus 0, which is 16, giving us our final answer. And what we used here was an additive identity. So really, we've been using these properties and not really paying attention to them before. So we use properties all the time, especially when we are evaluating expressions or even solving equations. Let's try another one. 7 times 1/7 plus 6 times the quantity of 15 divided by 3 minus 5. So we have to focus on our parentheses. So the first thing we will do is the 15 divided by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. So 7 times 1/7 plus 6 times 5 minus 5. And what we used there was a substitution property. We still have parentheses to take care of. We have 5 minus 5 in parentheses, which is 0. So 7 times 1/7 plus 6 times 0. And again, that's an additive identity. We can rewrite this 5 minus 5 as 5 plus negative 5. I'm sorry, not identity, inverse. So that's an additive inverse. The next thing we have to take care of is our multiplication and division from left to right. So we're going to take care of 7 times 1/7 first. 7 and 1/7 are reciprocals. 7 times 1/7 is 1. Oops. Bring down the plus 6 times 0. And what we did with that 7 and 1/7, that was called a multiplicative inverse. Next, we have more multiplication. 6 times 0. 6 times 0 is 0. So 1 plus 0. And 6 times 0 represents the 0 property. Lastly, we have 1 plus 0, which is 1. And there we used our additive identity. Raphael is buying furnishings for his first apartment. He buys a couch for $300, 4 lamps for $30.50, a rug for $25.50, and a table for $50. Find the total cost of these items using the properties of numbers. Name the property used in each step. Well, to find the total price, we add everything up that he purchased. He purchased a couch for $300, 4 lamps for $30.50, so 4 times $30.50. Plus a rug for $25.50. And a table for $50. So this is the expression right there. First thing we need to do is take care of our parentheses. Actually, our parentheses doesn't have an operation. We need to take care of our multiplication. We don't have parentheses, operations in parentheses, and we don't have exponents. So we need to take care of our multiplication. 4 times 30.50 is 122. So 300 plus 122. Bring down everything else, 25.50 and the 50. The property we used there was substitution. Next, we just add and subtract from left to right. So 300 plus 122 is 422. Bring down everything else. And again, that was substitution. Next, we will do 422 plus 25.50. Which is 447.50. Bring down the plus 50. Again, that was substitution. And then we have, let's pick a different color than that. It's a little hard to see. And then we have this last addition here, 447.50 plus 50, which is 497.50. Again, using substitution. So it's okay if you end up using the same property each time. So let's answer this properly. It says, find the total cost of these items using the properties of numbers. So let's throw a dollar sign in front of it. $497.50.